Previously on 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. You know, not to mention Resident Evil in every episode of this Let's Play, but now that I think of it, the animations we see here for opening the doors are actually a lot like the ones from the original games in that franchise, aren't they? Junpei didn't know what to make of what he saw. Hello, denizens of the internet, and welcome back to 999. In our last episode, the remaining 8 contestants of the Nonary Game finally reunited here in this large hospital room, which is a curious sight to be sure aboard a ship that has hitherto appeared to be a 1920s luxury liner. But alas, within an hour of our cathartic reunion, it seems one unlucky member of our crew has been split off from the main group once again. That's right, Snake has gone missing. And in today's episode, we'll be doing a little backtracking to see if we can ascertain his whereabouts. Oh, where should we start? None of these are, well, at least neither of the first two are particularly good options. It doesn't seem like he'd backtrack, and if he did want to, I'm not even sure he could get into either of those two rooms. We just came from the hospital room. I guess the hallway is definitely the most suspicious area and the place with the most areas for him to be hiding in.
We should go check out that hallway with all the rooms.
Okay, let's go, Jumpy.
They turned around and took off down the hallway to their left.
Oh, it's Ace.
Okay, I guess Ace went left. So I'm guessing Santa went down to the right, which is back to the hospital room. Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace.
Hey, Snake! Where are you? Answer me if you're there!
What should Junpei do? I guess I have no reason not to go.
Let's go.
Talk to Ace. With June in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them.
Ah, hello there.
And a good afternoon to you, Ace. Any luck so far?
Snake is... well, that's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that was a stupid question.
I assume you haven't found him yet?
Well, I hauled off this direction right behind you, so I probably don't know anything you don't.
Yeah, doesn't seem like you're having any luck either.
I really wonder where he could have gone.
Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can. For Clover's sake.
Right.
Hey, don't you swoon for his old ass. Hope she isn't into that grizzled gray lion thing, ugh. June's face looked kinda enraptured. She just has a thing for chivalry.
By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings?
Why would you say that?
Yeah, I'm kinda with Ace. It seems like a weird thing to really question at face value. I guess they don't look anything alike, with the pretty stark difference in hair color, but other than that, in their stature, there's, I guess that's enough to go by. They don't really dress that similar either, so I guess I could see somebody thinking that they didn't seem like they were brought up under the same conditions. Yeah, never mind, I'm coming around to Junpei. They kind of don't seem related. Why would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to Junpei.
Why? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all.
Yeah, that's pretty much what my analysis boiled down to. Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke.
Yes, you know, now that you mention it, they don't.
Yeah, I didn't really give it a lot of thought either. Now that you mention it?
Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another.
Now that you mention it, game's dropping hints there. But, I'm still with Ace. It's really not that unusual.
It certainly isn't rare.
Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke. As casual as the whole thing looks to me, I'd say the game's definitely foreshadowing something here about the resemblance between Clover and Snake.
At any rate, we really must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time.
Or maybe that Ace knows them or something.
Very well. Let's get back to the search, shall we? You can leave this area to me.
All right. Let's go, Jumpy.
At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil.
Something about that was... I'll think on it later. Like Ace said, finding Snake is our top priority.
Junpei did his best to clear his mind.
All right, where should we go next?
Like I've been saying, I really don't think he would have gone back to either of the places he came from, so I guess the next largest place is that we just missed him in the hospital room somewhere.
Why don't we go back to the big hospital room?
That's where, Santa went off with, we're
Okay,
guessing.
let's go then.
Or went off to. They turned and headed back toward the large hospital room.
Hey, wait, that's...
Called it. On their way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa, standing next to the number 3 door.
Santa?
Junpei paused. What should Junpei do? I guess it might not be prudent to waste time, but yeah, we really need to gather as much information as we can. Junpei and June walked up to Santa.
What are you doing?
What? You can't tell? I'm checking out the red.
Why? Is there something bothering you?
What? It's not bothering you?
No, it's bothering me. I think the red just fixing itself is probably the creepiest thing about all of this. In fact, it's kind of hard to imagine it doesn't have something to do with Snake disappearing at the exact same time.
Huh?
The guts of this red.
But the whole thing seems like it was perpetrated by Zero, and I can't think of why he would want to single somebody out like that.
Why wouldn't you wonder who the hell put it back in here?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but...
Who do you think did it?
Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at June. She shook her head.
I don't know.
Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed this thing for us?
I'm definitely leaning towards Zero. Although, if it was one of us, I don't think we're going to figure that out anytime soon either. Whoever's done it's resolved to keep pretty quiet about it. Snake, Lotus, Zero, someone other than the 8 of them. Huh, someone other than the 8 of them kind of implies that Zero is one of the 8 of them. Lotus is also kind of a random option. I think that's just thrown in there because she's been kind of, what's the word? Not confrontational. I don't know, she's just been kind of... There's been a lot of friction with her so far, at least in this route, at least in the route we've gone through. And I think the game is trying to play that up for more than it's worth. She seems hasty to get through this game, but I can hardly blame her for that. I'm sure it gives us Snake as an option because it wants us to relate his disappearance to the numbered doors. Like, he figured out how to fix the reds and then pass through one of them, but there's no way for him to do that without involving at least 2 other people. Well, I guess it's a real stretch, and he could have, like, done it with just the help of one other person if he was able to recover the ninth man's bracelet, since he did go through the room where he exploded. But even then, somebody in the group would still know would know that he had fixed the Reds and would know where he actually is. And the only reason for them to keep quiet about that would be if they had killed him. I'll admit that makes more sense than Zero taking him out. And then there's someone other than the 8 of them, which, in this context, seems to imply a party other than us or Zero that we haven't addressed yet. And an ass pull like that would kind of be breaking the usual conventions of mystery writing, so I don't really think that's it either. So Zero really is still coming out as the top option to me. It requires the fewest assumptions and seems the most probable.
I think it was probably Zero.
Why?
Well, why don't you?
Isn't that obvious? He's the guy who set this whole thing up.
You don't think that should mean the opposite? Seems to me like that means he didn't do it.
Okay, walk me through that one.
I mean, who do you think took that stuff out in the first place?
Zero.
Probably Zero.
Yeah, exactly. Then why the hell would he put him back in after he'd taken them out himself?
I think the whole setup's fairly obvious. He situated things so that we'd have to search a very large area in order to try and get the doors functioning. That would require us to split up. I think that was the entire motivation.
It just doesn't make sense. Why do all that work?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I don't know his exact motive for doing it up, or for doing things that way, but we don't know his motive for anything that's happened so far. And this whole game has been contrived and nonsensical. It's not hard to imagine it is just one more obstacle he's set up for us.
So, what happened then? Who put that stuff back in the Reds?
If it wasn't Zero, out of the options that you gave me earlier, Snake probably is the likeliest. Junpei furrowed his brow.
So, in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the Red.
If that's true, it's hard to imagine how they're keeping it a secret. Santa grinned.
Bingo! We have a winner.
But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know that they fixed it.
Yeah.
But why?
The obvious answer is because they killed Snake by forcing him through one of the doors, but kind of feels like it's implying something other than that.
No idea. Maybe if they come clean on that, it means we'd find out something else. Something bad.
Yeah, that's why I think what I said.
Something bad?
Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course.
Maybe Santa's just playing it casual and he knows something. But at the end of the day, he does raise at least one good point. We really can't trust any of the information we're hearing from the others in this environment.
It could have something to do with Snake's disappearance.
You think maybe they did something to Snake?
Yeah.
That would almost certainly require the help of a third person. That's why I'm so confused on how they're able to keep this quiet. Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. At first, he'd assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to reevaluate that assessment. Yeah, he made some good points, but I don't really think he's that on track about all of this just yet. When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet.
Look, if you trust anybody in this game, you're gonna lose. You've gotta be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back.
It really does sound like he's trying to get in our head, though. Also, what are you saying about June? With that depressing suggestion, he turned and quietly walked away.
And that's that, I guess.
I'm glad you can laugh. That definitely wasn't the most cheerful conversation. Ah, yeah, that's more the mood. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. That's June's smile? Where would they go next? I could finish searching, huh? I actually don't remember how important fleshing all of these out are. Honestly, I don't think it has much to do with the endings, but I guess it'd be remiss not to at least explore the areas we haven't been to at least once. I think I do have to be in the big hospital room to actually select finish searching, though, so it's not a bad time to take advantage of it. But let's go to the casino.
Let's go take a look around the casino.
That's a more exciting attraction than the first class cabin.
Okay.
They quickened their pace and headed for B deck. That's right, I forgot that was on the floor above us. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails. Well, I don't think we're gonna find Snake under those, but I don't think we're gonna find him anywhere else we have access to right now either, so...
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
She glanced up at him, unimpressed.
Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake.
You're sitting on your ass like you were when we were trapped in the freezer.
I'm just not seeing it.
Well, leaning on your ass.
Really? Maybe you need to look harder.
You need to look harder. What the hell?
I don't think that's the problem.
Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it?
That's a weird time to spring a proposition like that on somebody. Fine.
What is it?
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up?
Snake was just telling us to look out for people backstabbing us, and it sounds like Lotus is trying to team up with us to do that to, well, everybody else.
Team up?
Yeah. What? You need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door?
Even if we wanted to, that's impossible.
Why?
Jumpy's bracelet number is 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital root would be 1.
We'd have to add at least one more person, and that would leave, let's see, there's 7 of us right now. That would leave 3 people behind. Well, depending on who we left, that might at least be enough bracelets to open one of the remaining doors. So it's not necessarily a totally fucked up suggestion.
But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8.
Then we add another person.
Huh?
Who?
What, isn't that easy? 7.
If we add 7 to it, let's see, that would end up being 15 plus 11, which is 26, which is door 8. And the remaining crew would be Clover, Ace, and Santa. The 3 of them can open door 8, but we'll already be in there, so that's not a very good plan.
Oh, if we add 7, 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 7 equals 26.
Oh, is the game going to go through all of it for me? I might not have needed to go to the effort of thinking about that.
The digital root of 26, 2 plus 6 equals 8.
Then the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But
Wait a minute. What about the other 4?
the other 4... Oh, yeah, I guess I just assumed they wouldn't find Snake. Assuming I didn't miss any of the details anyway. Let's see, that would mean being able to open door 3, wouldn't it? 4 plus 1, 5, plus 3, 8, plus 2, oh, no, I'm mistaken, is 10 is a digital root of 1.
Ace,
So
Snake, Santa, and Clover.
they'd be stranded.
Well, why don't you add them up?
That was simple enough.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10, and 1 plus 0 equals 1. The digital root for those 4 would be 1.
That ain't gonna cut it.
That's right.
And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right?
Of course I know that.
No! Are you saying you'd leave them behind?
She's very heavily implying it.
Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we?
Inside the 9-hour time limit? Well, inside the now 6-hour time limit, minus however much longer it takes us to actually escape? Hell no. There's making a pragmatic argument, and then there's just being fucking callous.
Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind.
Maybe that's just how she's justifying it to herself? I don't know, but that would definitely not work out.
Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you do anything of the sort.
I don't necessarily think that. I think you'd probably try to do something if you got out, but I don't think it would do any good, and I think you know that.
Really? Why do you think that?
You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape,
Yeah, exactly.
there's no way we could come back to rescue them in less than 5 hours.
Well, you never know until you try.
No, you're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think ahead to the number 9 door.
The 4 of us couldn't open door 9. It is hidden, but an exit can be found.
I wonder if any combination of us can pull it off if we leave one of the other people behind and use a combination of 3. Use the calculator to figure that out because I've been kind of slow on the with the math today. So we're talking about Lotus, June, or not Santa, 7 and... Oh yeah, duh, Junpei. I forgot myself. So let's say Junpei's the one who doesn't make it. That would mean 6, 8, and 7. 4. Okay, let's say we left June then. 5, 9, not 9. 5, 8, I did it again. 5, 8, not 6. I don't know why I keep forgetting who's in the group. 7. 2. What if we left 7? That would be 5, 8, and 6. 1. Okay, what if we left Lotus? I don't know how I didn't start with that one. Oh, well, there we go. Lotus's plan would only kill her. Fuck, maybe this is a good arrangement. It is hidden, but an exit can be found.
Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9.
Yeah, that's right. The digital root for the 4 of us would be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9.
Or subtract Lotus to make 9.
That's right. Unless we bring Ace too, we'll be stuck.
Lotus scratched the back of her ear.
Oh. Well, that's unfortunate.
Unfortunate. That's all you have to say?
She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said, nor did she seem particularly surprised.
Well, let's try and find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us.
That's impossible. Are you being serious? And you do know that only 5 people, at most, can go through one of the numbered doors, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we should start preemptively screwing people out of survival. I'd say there'll be plenty of time for that at the end, but at the rate we're burning through time, that might not be the case.
The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind.
Huh.
Actually, we haven't tried reactivating a red. Well, we haven't had the chance to try reactivating a red after we've already passed through a door. It might be possible we could take turns.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Because they do go back to... Yeah, the 9th man blowing up and clearing the number 5 room proved that. They do go back to reading vacant after somebody's cleared the room. So presumably we can open them more than once. The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine.
No. Wait just a second. You're skipping over a really big detail.
Yes, what she said was true, but how Lotus could remain so cavalier about such a terrifying prospect was beyond him.
Is that really okay? That means 3 people will die in the end. Are you okay with that? That's just...
This really is a tough situation to be in, because pulling any bleeding heart mentality stuff really is dangerous to in terms of your self-preservation. That almost feels like the whole point of a claustrophobic scenario like this is to turn us against one of each other, like some sort of screwed up psychological experiment, like one of us suggested when we first discussed what Zero's motive might be. Lotus's forehead furrowed.
Do you think I could have a moment alone? There's some things I need to think about.
Yeah, me too. You kind of got me second-guessing myself there. Junpei and June turned around and began walking away from Lotus.
That didn't turn out to be a very pleasant conversation.
Yeah, actually, that might have been the darkest one so far. Actually, we're kind of doing a whole marathon of bummer conversations right now.
Yeah.
Junpei's heart felt heavy, and his steps sluggish. But, he told himself, pessimism would get them nowhere.
Well, regardless.
So, he forced himself to smile, and turned to June.
Let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay?
Yes, you're right. We can think about those other things later.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I was thinking. With so little time, we can't really prioritize them now. Junpei nodded.
All right. Where should we go next?
The first-class cabin is the only thing...
Let's go take a look at the first-class cabin. It's really close.
The only thing that's left. Yeah, and it is just down the hall from the casino. Outside of the first-class cabin, they found Clover. Oh, hell. You're the most distraught out of all of us, and actually the one we most need to talk to, though. I'm not looking forward to it. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. It'd be irresponsible not to talk to her.
Are you all right?
He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond.
Look, I know you're really worried, but...
He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. See, that's a big problem I have in real life when trying to console people. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seemed to have been very close to.
No.
Her voice was thin and barely audible.
Alone.
Alone, I'm thinking.
Alone.
Either that or lone wolf.
I said leave me alone!
Option A it is. This is gonna be a lot shorter than the last few conversations.
You're so annoying! Just go away and leave me alone! Just looking at you guys is pissing me off!
Though equally unpleasant.
Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else! Stop bothering me!
Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. Jun's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well.
Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me?
I wouldn't say what she's throwing at us is anger and hate. I think it's more fear and a lot of uncertainty and loneliness.
Huh? Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just...
Alright, let's go, June.
Yeah.
They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced back over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation. But Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed.
We really need to find Snake, for Clover's sake.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's gonna hold up much longer without him. He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile.
So, where do you think we should go next?
Back to the hospital room to regroup. We've covered everywhere else and found about as much as to be expected.
Let's head back to the large hospital room.
Alright, that's probably the best idea.
Together, they ran down the stairs.
I don't think anyone is here. What next?
Well, next we finished searching. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found.
Snake hasn't been anywhere we've searched.
Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke.
And we can't keep looking for him. Wherever he is, it's not here.
That's what I kept saying last episode. Well, hopefully now that our backtracking has yielded no sign of him, we can start using our time more efficiently again.
We need to get moving.
Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, Seven spoke.
We don't got a choice. Lotus is right.
He sounded reluctant to admit that.
We're not gonna find Snake. There's a problem, though.
What's that, big guy?
We've got to figure out who's gonna go through which door.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would be a really obvious problem.
Yes, I have a proposal.
She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped.
Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice?
That's a bold plan. Fuck, man, Lotus is a horrible emotional thinker if she thinks that putting a keyword like sacrifice out there is the right way to sell an idea to a bunch of frightened people. Well, either that, or she's trying to influence their behaviors by playing off their fears, but I don't really think there's anything with that much malintent going on.
Sacrifice?
Well, perhaps that's a bit of a harsh word, but yes.
At least she's self-aware enough to admit it.
You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors.
She does raise a valid point, though. There's no way for all 7 of us to proceed given the numbers on these doors. See, the trick to figuring out the digital root combinations for a given door is to take the number from that door and add numbers to it whose sums are intervals of the number 9. For example, to open door number 7, you could add a combination of bracelets whose sums were 9, 18, or even 27, and get the numbers 16, 25, and 34 respectively. The digital root of each of those 3 numbers is 7, and therefore could open the door. And it's because of all of these factors that losing players in the Nonary game is such a dangerous proposition. It reduces the number of bracelet combinations that add up to the number 9, and makes it a lot harder to balance the teams to get through different sets of doors. Normally you can take each of the numbers in base 10 and pair them together to form sums of 9. 8 plus 1, 7 plus 2, 6 plus 3, 5 plus 4, and of course 9 plus 0, or 9 by itself, all add up to 9. This also means that the number 9 bracelet, which we no longer have, has the ability to be added to any other bracelet combination without affecting the digital root, making it possible to append the number 9 bracelet to any team combination. The other major problem that we're facing is Zero's restriction on the number of people who can enter any given door. Since a minimum of 3 people are required to open a numbered door, opening 3 doors at any given time requires a minimum of 9 people. This also prevents us from using any more than 4 people to open any of the numbered doors, because there would only be 2 people left over, and that number would be insufficient to open any of the remaining doors. And in turn, this means that the only possible combinations where all 7 of us are able to continue involve forming teams of 4 and 3. An endeavor which, as I previously mentioned, is impeded greatly by the missing bracelet numbers. In fact, if you look at all the available 4-person teams that are able to open these 3 numbered doors, and don't use either of the numbers 2 or 9, which we don't have access to, it turns out that none of the leftover teams comprised of 3 people form digital roots that are able to open any of the remaining doors. So, we can't open the doors with any combinations involving 5 people, because the remaining 2 are not sufficient to open a door, and we also cannot open a door with any combination of 4 people without leaving the remaining 3 people behind, because their digital root isn't 3, 7, or 8. And this in turn means that the only teams which we can form that leave behind fewer than 3 people are teams comprised of 3 people apiece. But of course, with 7 of us, that leaves 1 person out in the cold. Hence Lotus's reference to making a single sacrifice.
If we split into 2 teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind.
Yep, that's long and short of what I was trying to explain. I'm surprised she had time to figure all of that out, even with the hour we were looking for Snake. I'm not gonna lie, it took me longer than that.
But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind.
It is the best case scenario. Oh no, she's right. It wasn't pleasant, but she was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out. If one group was 4, the other group would always have a digital root that didn't match a door. When 7 spoke, his voice was strained.
Then you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind.
Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. If the other 6 are to survive, then 1 person has to sacrifice themselves.
No, that's too cruel!
I mean, everybody dying would be pretty cruel too, so I think we're kind of stuck with it.
What's so cruel about it?
To just sacrifice someone like that?
Tonight, on the Nonary Game, one of our contestants is voted off the ship.
Then what's your...
Say hi to Leonardo DiCaprio for us.
Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1.
That's not what I meant! We shouldn't sacrifice anyone!
I guess that's technically true.
I told you, that's impossible. Wake up.
Whoa, calm down, you two. Look, what Lotus is trying to say is, you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right?
Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote.
Oh, I forgot she actually suggested that when I made the voting off the island joke.
What do you think?
I can't think of a better idea off the top of my head, but that seems kind of fucked up for whoever ends up actually getting the most votes.
No! That's terrible!
I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa?
Me? Well, I agree, I guess.
All right, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7.
I can't say I agree with you, but
But facts are facts.
we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die.
Oh, glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover?
I was gonna say Clover wants to vote for a third-party candidate. I guess that would be June in this case. Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus's proposal.
Hey, Clover.
Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder.
Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors.
Ooh. I agree that's really likely. But holding it over Clover's head to get her to vote along with you is pretty fucked up. You know, if you come off as too much of a sociopath, there's actually a decent chance you'll be the one voted to be left behind.
We've searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them somehow?
I do think it's between that and the doors with the planet markers on them. Clover slowly lifted her face.
Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice one person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me?
Damn, appealing to something she desperately wants, exploiting Clover's emotionally vulnerable state to make her more suggestible to the notion that you're on the same side. It's actually kind of creepy how far Lotus is willing to go to get her way in all of this.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna vote for Lotus. Clover nodded once.
The motion carries.
Ah, she's so satisfied with it too, it's gross. Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei.
Now, let's start a vote too.
That won't be necessary.
Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care.
I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes?
Damn, Ace to the fucking rescue? That's not even heroic, that's just an unbelievable amount of altruism. Yeah, I don't think anybody expected that.
Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything.
Oh, you're just trying to impress June again. I'm gonna find a way to turn this around on you, old man. June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her.
June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself.
Huh?
I trust you, each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's optimistic, and then there's just nuts.
Yeah, that's a lot of faith to put in a bunch of strangers. I mean, it would be pretty collectively evil of us, actually, to turn our backs on you after such a sacrifice. But with only 5 hours left, the logistics of actually executing on any of that and rescuing you are just too bleak.
Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If we go through them,
You won't be able to return, correct?
I'm still not so confident in that. We've been separated before and met back up. It's quite possible it'll happen again.
yeah.
True, but that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship.
What?
Please, I beg you, once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally, within the time limit Zero has given us.
We have no idea how far from the shore we are, or what options are going to be available to us to return. And there's still going to be the amount of time for anybody who can actually cut into the ship to save you to get out here. I just don't see it, dude.
No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we could get back in time.
Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer.
We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are.
Or how many more doors we're going to have to contend with. Or how long the puzzles that are coming up are going to take. Honestly, I think we're hard-pressed to even get off the ship in 5 hours, let alone return.
How on earth are we gonna find someone to come and rescue you?
Then, perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me?
I didn't say that.
Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind?
Ace's voice was dignified, and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal.
You see, there's no other choice. Then I see we've come to our conclusion.
Damn.
Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go, quickly.
Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. Man, he really put all of us in our place. I mean, that's a debt we really can't repay, so I guess his gamble, if we get off the ship, if we were to escape the ship fast enough, would pay off. I don't see how anybody could abandon him after that. June bit her lips so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against a wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace, with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others.
Good. Let's accept his kind offer then.
She's so detached and logical about how she explains all this fucked up shit, and then so jovial when things go her way. It's just... it's not a good look, is all I'm saying. She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own.
Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. It may be my age, but I get tired so easily these days.
He's not taking this seriously, though, and that's concerning. As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. Wait, he wouldn't rather lie in one of the beds? I just don't see how he's able to joke and do this so calmly. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. Metal on metal again, just like with every door in this place. Zero needs to get some WD-40 up in here. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Doesn't really sound like it. Would it really hold until their time limit was up? Already, D-Deck was flooded. That's an interesting question. I mean, ships are designed to be able to hold a certain amount of flooding. Although I don't think that extends to the fucking decks. That's just for the... whatever the hell the parts in the hull are called that are designed to absorb it. I have no idea how long it would take with this much water already aboard the ship, though. Honestly, how the hell would Zero figure something like that out? How many freaking Titanic replicas could he possibly have sunk in the process of setting all of this up? In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first.
Well, what are you waiting for? We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up?
Well, excuse me, Princess. As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once.
You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now.
7.
Seriously. Honestly, I was getting kind of sick of listening to you guys talk.
You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you. Let's just calm down and think about this.
Unless you have some thermite and an acetylene torch, I don't really see what we're gonna do.
There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Jumpy?
There might be, in a scenario where we actually do escape in time to save everybody, or if the path does loop back to this room.
Say something.
Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way.
If a big brainstorming session is the next step in this plan, it's just not gonna cut it. His words sounded hollow and fake.
Fine! Forget about it! I'll figure it out on my own.
Well, you don't have very long. She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled.
Ace! Come on, Ace. Please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here.
He actually kind of looks like the gravity of what he's offered to do has set in a little bit. Then it happened. Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold.
Ace!
June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up.
What happened? Ace, say something!
She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open. What's wrong with him? Is this why he offered to do this so easily? Does he suspect he's not going to make it out already for some reason?
I'm all right.
His voice was weak and slightly slurred. He sounds really tired.
How are you all right?
This.
He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand.
A syringe?
Well, I would say maybe that's how he was able to be calm about all of this, but I'm thinking he put that in his system after offering. I'm pretty sure that would hit pretty quick. I see what he's doing. He's going to force our hand. He can't continue if he's unconscious, so the matter's... Well, to be honest, the matter's pretty much already settled. There's nothing else we can do. But, I mean, if it'll convince June to go along with it, I'm all for it. It was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped on the side of the container. It read, Soporil Beta. How much was in that vial when he started? Because I'm approaching this from the point of view that he's knocking himself out so he doesn't suffer if the ship does go down, but if he's just planning to take himself out with this stuff, that's... I hope he really is just going for a nap and not trying to poison himself. Soporil Beta. Although, it wouldn't really make sense if he were. He sounded genuinely optimistic about his chances of making it out of here if we went ahead of him. Unless that was all an act, but I really don't see why he would do that.
Soporil Beta. What does this do? Did you use this?
Yes. It's just anesthetic. I'll be fine.
Anesthetic?
I found it earlier. While we were searching the hospital rooms, I thought it might be useful later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself.
Man, Ace has really been thinking ahead on all of this.
Why did you do this?
Didn't I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired.
I don't doubt it, considering what's in your system now. Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with anesthetic to forestall Junpei and June's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He'd injected himself, so they would be forced to leave him behind.
Ace!
Is there something you want to say? I just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down?
No! Don't, Ace! Don't fall asleep!
You feel warm. So comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream.
Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying.
Ace! Ace!
Don't say that. She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Damn. When we didn't know what to do, Ace here really rose to the occasion. After showing that much resolve, it's really hard to doubt that he was being genuine in his faith in us to find him a way out of this, but it's incredibly rare to find somebody who sees that much good in the world and in others. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told them he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was, in fact, still breathing.
Let's get him up on a bed.
He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity.
Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste. Right?
Agreed.
Like you even mean that.
You say something?
Well, it does seem disingenuous coming from you.
No, nothing.
It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly, Santa spoke.
Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we?
No, there's still the unresolved matter of the doors.
Huh? What do you mean?
Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's true.
Enough of this screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want?
Yeah, let's get to it. Working out the combinations for those can be a real runaround. We don't want to waste even more time on that.
I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number.
Got it. You're 8. You're next, 7. Which one do you want?
I'll take 7. I can't get along with that old lady.
Burn!
What? What did you just say?
Well, you're like the least agreeable person here. I mean, Santa's kind of curt, but he's not actively malevolent. Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step towards 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Who, me? I didn't say nothing.
I wonder what 7's mom was like.
Oh, you're gonna get it next time.
She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off.
All right, who's next?
Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei.
Junpei, which door do you want?
At last, Junpei's mind was already made up. That's true, actually. I have already planned out what door I'm going to go through. And that is door 8. Even if it means going with Lotus. I mean, somebody has to do it.
I think I'm gonna go with door 8.
Exploring the other side of door 8, however, is an undertaking deserving of a video in its own right. So, we'll be tackling that in the next episode. Honestly, a puzzle room might be a good distraction from how serious the tone's gotten since the last episode. And a little math tells us that if Lotus and I are taking door 8, then it'll be Clover joining as our 3rd. I've been wanting to spend more time with her pretty much the whole game. Though it's a shame the opportunity only arose once she was an emotional wreck. But maybe if we can get her to open up, we'll learn something only she knows about Snake that could help unravel the mystery of his disappearance. Or maybe we'll all suffocate in a laboratory fire. But hey, whatever happens, happens.